Hello, this is Allison Golden. I'm going to do a walkthrough of my Sinatra portfolio project. Having a lot of issues recording this video, so hopefully I can make it through this time. This project is using the model view controller paradigm to build a Sinatra framework, providing separation of concerns by grouping files according to their jobs and defining how they interact with each other. Project is also using Active Record for database support, database mapping, and associations. Uses the rake gem to automate tasks such as creating the database tables and revising them through migrations, things like that. Project is also using bcrypt, which is for password encryption, and that is done within the user class here, specifying that the user class has a secure password, which creates a authentication method that can be used throughout the controllers to verify the user data. Password encryption also requires within the user table to specify password digest. And setting them up that way basically creates salted versions of the passwords that are stored within the database tables. Going back to the models, we can see the associations that I have set up, and a user class associates with recipes, has many recipes. The recipe class belongs to a user. Now looking at the application controller, you can see we're inheriting from Sinatra base, and I set up a configure block here to enable sessions and set a session secret. I'm also using rack flash here in the configure block. The application is using sessions, which is a hash used to store user data on the server, and it's being enabled here. The session secret is an encryption key used to create a session ID, and the session ID is unique to the user session. I also defined two helper methods here, current user method and a logged in method. The current user method uses the user ID from the session hash to find the user in the database. The logged in method returns true if the user ID is in the session hash, or false if it is not. Now if we look at the user's controller, you can see I've set up many different routes, and routes are either redirecting or calling upon ERB views. The application allows for the creation of user accounts. A user can log in, sign up, log out. I also created a view for a profile, which I'll pull up once we get to the website itself. You can see here on the post login route that the application is validating the uniqueness of the user login attribute when the controller route accesses the username and password from the params hash, and using that info, it finds the user from the database, then stores the user ID as a session hash value of user ID. Within the post sign up route, you can see here that it validates that all fields for sign up have been filled out. The username, email, and password must be filled out. If any of them are missing, it will flash an error message and redirect them back to the sign up page. And down here, this is the on creation of an account, the user info is accessed through the params hash. The route then uses that info to create a new user instance, assigning the parameters, username, email, password, and then signs the user in by setting the session hash user ID to the new user's ID. So once a user is logged in, we can access the CRUD actions, create, read, update, and delete or destroy. And most of those are here within the recipes controller. Creating a new recipe, posting the recipe, which then assigns all the parameters, finding recipes by ID, editing them by ID. And then here's the patch method for once the recipe is edited, it reposts. Here's a delete route, which allows the user to delete a recipe from their list. So you can see there I have all 4 of them: create, read, update, updating here, and deleting. So then moving on to the views, we have a create view, which basically sets up a form for entering in the recipe name, ingredients, instructions, and any notes they would like to add. This is the edit view, which pulls up the recipe by ID and allows them to make any changes and then submit it, and it patches it, recreating the method. This is showing all the recipes for the user, and then it lists them out and allows them to select the one that they would like to view, edit, or delete. And this is the show page that shows all the details of the ingredient recipe once they select it. In the user's view, we have the create user, which here's our flash error message. If they do not fill in one of these fields, it will give them that error message, which they need username, email, and password. The login has the same error message. All fields are required, which would be username and password. And I created a profile page, which basically gives them the option to create a recipe, view their recipes, log out. It also pops up a sidebar that shows a random recipe. It says this week's top recipe, and it's just a random recipe chosen from all recipes that they can view. And eventually I would like to add in here where the user can add this recipe to their list, but I haven't got that far yet. I also have a welcome page here, which is the login page. And it just says, welcome to the Recipe Keeper. You can store your favorite recipes here. It pops up the login or sign up buttons. And that's about it, I guess. I already ran shotgun so that the website is up and running. So I'll just walk you through that really quick. So here's my application, the Recipe Keeper. And I just used a background image here and created, some CSS within the views. Actually, I used the inside of the public folder style sheets, this main CSS, created some CSS for the buttons, button groups, and the text area, text box sizes. But this is for the text input, submit input, different types of input. I specified CSS for each one of those, the image borders and sizing, these images that are on the pages. So here, I'll just go ahead and show you the, as I said, the user needs to enter all fields, otherwise they get an error message. So I'll show you the error message that comes up there. All fields are required. And same thing for the login page. They don't fill out these fields, it gives them an error message. So I'll go ahead and log into one of the accounts that I already created. And you can see I set up a little picture there. I didn't want it to be super plain. You can create a recipe, view your recipes, or log out. It calls on the username here. And this is the little sidebar that posts a random recipe. And this one just so happens to belong to this user. So, and you can click on it to view the details of that recipe. And like I said, eventually I want to change this page to where you can't edit it or delete it unless it belongs to you. If it doesn't belong to you, I want them to be able to add it to their profile, or yeah, their profile, but haven't got there yet. So we'll go back and we'll view all of my recipes. I've got 4 different recipes that I added in here. It says select the recipe you'd like to view, edit, or delete. So if I select this one, we'll pull it up. It lists out all the ingredients by iterating through them, which I'll show you that later. Instructions and any notes. If you click on edit, it will open up the form so you can add to it as you please. We'll just put in here some sort of addition and submit the form, and then it takes you back to the recipe details page so you can see that it was updated. And then go back to your profile and create a recipe. Let's say grilled cheese, bread, cheese, butter, and oops, submit that one. So then you can see it added it to my list. I'm gonna go ahead and edit that since I spelled it wrong. Edit and submit. And there you go, it's updated the spelling. So go back to my profile, view my recipes, and we'll say, well, I don't want this one, I'll go ahead and delete it. Delete recipe, you delete it, takes you back to your list and you can see that it's gone. So that's basically it. I'm gonna log out and show the create user steps. So we'll just say user 4. Sign up. And here's the sidebar with the random recipe. Since I don't have any recipes, this will be blank. Create a recipe. Go ahead and submit that. And now I have a recipe there. Yeah, that's basically it. And eventually, like I said, I would like to expand upon this application because I love to cook. So it would be really cool to be able to store all my recipes in here and be able to share with other people and allow them to add their recipes in and have access to other users' recipes. So eventually I will expand upon this application and make it a little better. I don't think there was anything else. If you log out, once you log out, then it clears the session ID, which you can see in the user's controller. Upon logout, session clear. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully I can add to it eventually, and if you have any suggestions, let me know. Thank you.